welcome to Hotline FN. Welcome back. This is episode 14 of the only live call-in show for your hot takes, bold predictions, and unpopular opinions surrounding the Fortnite competitive scene. And that's exactly what this show is. It's a show where we've got guests, we've got hosts, you call in with the topic, and we talk about it. We want to know what you think, which squads are going to perform well in the upcoming FCS, how you feel about squads, how you feel about not having duos. I mean, these are just some examples. How are bouncers? How are flint knocks? What do you want to talk about? Let's talk about it. This week, as always, I'm joined by the fabulous co-host, Balla TW, and also a really special guest, someone who's involved with the scene and really trying to expand his influence of his organization. We've got RBK Concealed. So before we hop into this, let's talk a little bit about how to get involved, how to call in, right? So if you type in !Hotline FN in the chat, or HLFN, you will get a link to the Discord channel. In the Discord channel, there's a room to submit your topic. The more clearly stated, while staying succinct, the better. Let's us read it quickly and decide if we're going to approve it or not. Once you're approved, you'll get voice checked by a mod if you're following the instructions in that channel. And then we'll get you on the show. It's important that I reiterate, though, that we are not necessarily first come, first serve. And just because you've been approved and voice checked does not mean for sure you'll be on the show. It's just part of dealing with a finite amount of time and a lot of people. So with that in mind, let's bring in our very special people. Balla, Concealed. What's up, guys? How's it going? Hey, fantastic. So it's been a minute. It's been, yeah. I got, listen. Epic put out this little blog post called Fortnite and the Brute. I couldn't stomach it, man. I was like, I gotta take a break. I gotta play some other games for a minute. I can't hang with this. This isn't right. So,
2.5 months ago or something like that, something crazy. So yeah, I'm happy to be back. I'm excited. It's been a long time, and I can't wait to talk some competitive Fortnite with you guys.
Yeah,
I'm excited. Thank you guys for having me here.
Yeah, no, thank you for being on the show. It's always exciting. Hotline FN is always a good time. So Balla, it's been a minute. What have you been up to? What do you have going on right now?
Right now specifically, man, we're on a little bit of a low, not like a bad low. It's just a little bit of a break after TwitchCon, because I did a bunch of stuff before that. Twitch Rivals was awesome. We went to TwitchCon. I actually met up with Concealed, and we had a couple conversations, and we casted Twitch Rivals, which was literally one of my favorite events so far. And I just came back from vacation, so I needed a little bit of a cool-off period after that, because I did like a super touristy vacation, you know, where it's like it feels it's more like tiring than it is actually chilling out and having a relaxing time. But no, it was great. I went to Barcelona, I went to Rome and Paris, so literally awesome destinations. I'd recommend anybody to go to any of those locations because they were dope. But yeah, gonna be getting back to it. Starting with this basically tomorrow. We're gonna be streaming a little bit. Yeah, the same old.
Hella, we're kicking off the next season of Balla with the next iteration of Hotline FN. I like it.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Perfect. Concealed, this is your first time on the show. Maybe your first time in front of a lot of these guys. You want to tell us a little bit about what you've been up to, what you are up to, and maybe who you are?
Yeah, no, of course. Well, my name is Joao, but I go by Concealed, and I'm one of the owners of an organization called Raised by Kings that's heavily involved in the Fortnite scene at the moment, and have a lot of success this past year that we've been around. We've been around officially 1 year since our first signed player about a couple days ago.
Congratulations.
So it's been here. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
And similar to my friend Balla here, before TwitchCon, I was in Europe as well. I was in Spain and Portugal, and then came home for a couple days and right back to San Diego, right back on the road to TwitchCon, and then now I just came back, and now I'm living the dream here with you guys.
All right. Well, once again, really glad. That's if you don't have anything to do with your hands, flick a booger. That's what they tell models. That's what that was. Anyway, really glad to have you back. Really glad to have you here. So we got a lot of things to talk about. Shh, quiet, Balla. We got a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah,
that's what they tell. That's what they tell you. Like if you're
for the first time, so now we're flicking
for real.
boogers.
If you're like, if someone's taking a picture of you or whatever, and you don't like do with your hands, but, like you're doing like a model shots, they like tell you to like do things like that with your hand. They can make the picture more interesting. Not like up by your head, but if like down. If you're like in a picture, like in a photo shoot. Come on, have you guys never been in a professional photo shoot? What?
I got you.
No, it's not the same. Damn it!
Come on, bro.
For those listening,
let's flick a booger and get into the show. Why don't we?
Perfect. All right. So as I was saying, it's been a minute. It's been basically all of season 10 since we did the show. Our last episode was first week of FCS. Now we've cruised all the way through the finals. We talked a little bit about starting points for the show, Balla, Concealed, and I beforehand, but now I'm going to throw that all out the window because let's talk about FCS. I kind of completely forgot about that, right? FCS finals we had just 2 weeks ago now? Or has it been 3 weeks already?
2 weeks, right? It was the weekend before TwitchCon. Yeah, so 2 weeks.
It'll be 3 weeks this weekend, basically.
Yeah. Okay. And we saw some interesting, but not like too terribly surprising results. I know for West, we had, I can't remember. We all expected Scented, Edgy, etc., but instead what we got was, guys, I'm gonna pull it up. I can't remember for the life of me.
Instead, what we got was griefing. That was the topic of discussion. Like everything was kind of like forgettable because there was so much of this discussion about griefing. Oh, my game got griefed. Oh, this happened over here, and NA East Europe and NA West. Everybody got griefed apparently. I don't know how because you're playing a lobby of only 100 people.
Yeah.
That was the storyline.
Jay Rose's team.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to get it out.
That's one of the things that I don't understand. This whole griefing thing. You just so everybody just claims a spot, and it's like nobody else can go here. This is mine. If I tweet about this, that's it. Leave it.
Well, there's more that goes into, or could go into, like a potential griefing case, right? If it's like these guys just pushed us out of Storm every game because with shotguns and shields, the second they got them, just because they, for whatever reason, right? There are valid reasons to do that. We thought you were easy kills if we wanted the points. And there are less valid reasons to do that. Either way, it's the competitors you're playing against in your game. You have to be prepared to handle people doing dumb shit to you, right? Like I don't know if that's an excuse. We didn't show up at this event because we got griefed by some amount of the other 97 high-tier pros. Like, you should be able to handle them one way or the other, right?
Yeah, so that's a good point. There's the actual legitimate cases where it's like, okay, this is griefing, where somebody is going out of their way. I'm thinking specifically in the OCE region where the X2 twins had Discord messages that were like, we're gonna grief your game if you don't follow us. Like it's legitimate blackmail in this case.
That to me is a good case.
That should be bannable, straight up, just get out of the tournament. This does not deserve to be here at all. And then there's cases where it's Mongrel and Mitro who just got outplayed in Retail Row. Just straight up outplayed because they didn't have a strat to counter the nicely thought. I don't know if it was off the cuff or whatever that team did where they pushed them with the mechs and they did the kind of sneaks on them. Which, to be honest, if they had played in NA East, if they were playing against Tfue Cloak in 72 hours, that was literally the strat that they were playing was sneak attacks on Retail Row after a certain amount of time. Sure, they got mechs. Mechs are stupid, ridiculous. But there was a certain element to it. It was just like, how can you say this is griefing? It's not griefing. It's in the game, and they were literally at the top of the leaderboard, at top 10 or something like that.
Yep.
For a while.
First 2 games?
2 games, yeah. They started dropping off, but they were still beating.
For a while in a 4-game format, right?
6 games total.
6 games, sorry.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. The whole mech thing is definitely, I don't even know why that's in the game. But there's certain times where players just get outplayed and they just need something to blame, and it's automatic, oh, we got griefed. They never look in the mirror and realize, no, it was your decision making that put you in those certain spots. that got you killed.
And I don't think it's fair to say that like these players, these high tier players who have continued to be
No,
high tier players
no.
aren't like looking
No, of course.
introspectively, but in the moment it's easy.
In that moment, yeah.
Yeah, to just be like, this is something else. Like, get it out of your head. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it a coping mechanism for some people at that point? I don't know. But obviously, like, there's some nonsense, especially then, right? Mechs aren't like a thing now, and mechs were in their nerfed state then, but still had plenty of ability to just ruin a game for a whole lobby, right? Depending on when and where you have that mech, which is it's frustrating in and of itself, right?
Yeah. Us and the Brute, or whatever the damn
Fortnite and the Brute.
Titled.
Fortnite and the Brute.
Yeah,
Every player shuffling.
We don't even go down that route.
If you want to hear me yell about that, listen to the last episode from a month or two ago.
Episode 13.
Yeah, because not super fun. Not super fun at all.
But otherwise, at the end, when all was said and done, FNCS was a great experiment. I'm going to call it an experiment because I still don't understand why we have things that aren't working at the beginning of tournaments that cause delays and all sorts of weirdness and
all kinds of shenanigans there, right? Like,
but the format worked. The whole concept of FNCS was really good. I would just honestly, if I'm Epic, this is the way. We just got to keep making some modifications, right? Like, I'd rather see everybody qualify through the consistency points and the ladder that way, rather than
no pop-offs,
have these random top eight performances. It'll still qualify the same people almost, but it's just weird. Like, I don't know what when I'm watching the weekly qualifiers, I don't know what the hell I'm watching. I can't figure it out. It's just like, okay, well, they have to get top 8, that is clear, but then everything else I'm like, are they qualifying? Like, I have no idea. Which is fine. It's a qualifier. I don't need to necessarily know. I just need to know at the end. Whatever.
They just need to include
the actual like the heats system and that sort of thing. Like, it needs to be more than 6 games. It's online.
All of it needs to be more than
like
6 games. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what is this? The system of 6 games, 3 hours of playing. Like,
do 4 games in a break.
A couple of days. Like,
5 games in a break, 6 games in a break. Like, you could do whatever at that point, right? Like, they've already shown little care for taking up, 14-year-olds time all day every day, right, for events and stuff. So I mean, may as well just like make it better events then, if you're gonna do that anyway. One interesting thing about the FNCS for me was the production of the finals, right, was basically mirroring the World Cup qualifier productions. And it felt, because of that, while the production itself may not have been bad, it felt a little underwhelming, because already in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, this is what we do for not the main event, right? Like, not the cool big thing. And so that felt a little weird. I would love to move to LANs in the future. That'd be sweet, but obviously regional LANs aren't going to be, that's going to be a whole beast if they ever try to attempt something like that, right? So
yeah, and I don't think that's the way they're gonna go. I think these online events, I really like the format of the FNCS. I like the consistency points, rather than just having a weekly thing like Balla said, where it's just you have a pop off week, you qualify, and if you don't, it's kind of like you can be consistent the entire time and not get rewarded for it.
Yeah, I think that one thing that would help, that I was gonna say earlier, Balla, when I cut you off, was that I would love to see what each position is worth in those points. Live on the leaderboard during the event, right? So I've hit this threshold of 150 or 150th place, whatever. So now I'm getting this many points. It just adds a little bit, like you said, Balla, of this sort of. Well, it just creates this better indicator of like
happening.
And spectators know what's happening, and people interested know what's going on, versus these sort of like random updates every now and then, which is less than super fun for me. Concealed, before we move on to our first topic here, you were talking on Twitter a little while ago just about organizations and how they fit into the scheme of Fortnite, and how Fortnite, you feel, doesn't really do much. I mean, it doesn't do anything from my standpoint to push orgs or to push org involvement. And I don't know. From my viewpoint, that can hurt players. It's nice in the open sense, but it can also hurt players in the sense of a consistent form of support, if not pay. At the very least, support becomes less and less valuable to to Epic, right? And I don't know. Did you have some thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, my experience has been a little bit different, with Epic Games as compared to everybody else. I think we've had a couple bumps on the road as far as our player treatment and what's going on with like our org and stuff. So my experience is a little bit different than what everybody else is. But I think overall, if you look at esports as a whole, like org involvement is so good and it just like great for the scene just because it brings like this fan base, right? Like this fan base that's not really involved into Fortnite. For example, like League of Legends teams have people in orgs that have this fan that don't really watch Fortnite, but if they had a team to cheer for and if Fortnite pushed it, they would come and watch Fortnite. So the event could be so much bigger than what it is now. And it's already huge. So I mean, that's my take on it. I feel like Epic should support orgs. I mean, it is their decision to do whatever they want with their game, obviously at the end of the day, and not much I can do about that end, but I would love to have that involvement with organizations being helped or promoted.
We had the discussion. It was around the time of free Edgy, free Mitro and stuff like that. Where I was kind of subtweeting the hashtag free X movement. Right. I was subtweeting and I said basically that like that the whole reason for this is like orgs can't really they can't offer a lot of these players what they want and what they need because there's no value in it for them. For a lot of them, I'll use Mitro as actually both of those cases, Edgy and Mitro, were actually super. They exemplified the whole situation pretty well because for somebody like maybe Mongrel, for example, who didn't have that case, but he moved from Secret to FaZe. Mongrel obviously offers a lot to any org because he streams on the consistent. He's very active on social media. He's somebody that's like very marketable and will literally pull in tons and tons of views to your organization, and will help them grow in that sense. But somebody like Edgy, I'm not no diss to Edgy, but he is a pro Fortnite player first and foremost. He is not somebody who is doing anything extra out of this. Yeah. Besides maybe posting some Twitter clips, getting a few impressions here and there, and sure he's growing his base. But as far as an org is concerned, how does Fly in Edgy's case make any money off of Edgy, right? And that's what I was tweeting about. I think Joe, you hopped in on that. Yeah. My question to you is like, what can they do? What are the things for a lot of the viewers who are uneducated on what orgs actually get out of players? What can a game do to make you guys, interested in staying in and interested in investing in players?
So, I mean, you hit that nail on the head right there with like the whole free whatever movement. I think it's, I understand, some players signed a really bad contract, and there is bad contracts out there. There's a lot of orgs that are out there just to take advantage of these kids, which is dumb. But at the same time, like somebody's parents or somebody's agent, and there's a lot of, don't get me wrong, this whole agency thing, like there's a bunch of like Twitter agents that are out there that somehow people like trust and that are involved in this whole signing process that have no clue about contracts or never went to law school or anything, and somehow that's how they're trusted in the scene to do all this stuff. Is unremarkable to me. But to us, right, let's say for example RBK, like if I were to go sign a player, first I'm looking at stream numbers, and a lot of the Fortnite players, the professional Fortnite players, don't stream often, or if they do, they stream to a very small audience. Yeah. So out of that aspect, like we gain nothing from a player that doesn't really stream or do anything really, like if they're just behind closed doors. So we're just hoping that they win every tournament, because without that we get no exposure, which is what we can sell to our sponsors or potential sponsors, like what we can show to bring some kind of value to the org. Like this is what we can do for you, right? We're consistently winning tournaments, or if we're not winning tournaments, we're streaming and providing a huge viewership number for you. If a player is not winning consistently and they're not streaming, then it's like, what we pay a salary for or what?
Right. I think that's the issue, right? It's like literally when you're playing a tournament, there's so little exposure and there's so little growth out of playing a tournament. If you're not placing first or second or third out of potentially 100 different players, like that is so difficult. And that's one of the reasons why just BRs in general struggle with this concept. I think that's why, like, I think we'll segue a little bit into squads. I think that'll help seriously, I think it'll help because now it's 25 out of, or compared to 100. I keep saying this over and over and over, but like 25 teams, it's so much easier for somebody to be like, oh, that the team that placed 17th had that play in Retail Row where they took out Tfue and whatever, and they got, they were observed by the production. They were seen. There's the RBK tag on them and everything, and they're like, oh, okay, RBK. Let me go check out these players rather than anything else. That's where it's so difficult, and that's why literally there's been, in my mind, our scene is so anti-org. Not just from
but
Epic
you say that
stance.
You say the RBK tag and stuff, but I mean, a lot of Epic tournaments, you can't even have those tags on your gamer tags. So it's not like, if, for example, one of my players, say for example, JLove kills so and so, you don't see RBK JLove. All you see is JLove. So how would you even know that they're associated?
You see SS.
Yeah, whatever it is, Secret Skirmish, JLove, or whatever it might be. So how do we get any value out of that if he doesn't win? If let's say he wins first place, and then we get people looking up, oh, like he won first place, he's got
now you have people looking up his
now you have people
Twitter
looking, but if they don't, like, do you think anybody really scrolls past the top 5 placements and really researches anybody?
Yep. Most people don't.
And think about that for like sponsors too. Like the whole reason orgs are a thing in other esports, in my mind, is sponsorships, right? Like 100%. They need to get eyes on their sponsors. And there's literally in online tournaments, and there's a lot of people supporting online tournaments all of a sudden. I'm like, well, but anyways, it's another topic. There's nothing for people to see sponsors. There's literally nothing. To see a sponsor, you have to go look up whoever you're looking up. You have to go look them up on Twitter. Then you have to go see, oh, they're on this team. You have to see, oh, they have jerseys. There's a little bit of some sponsorship stuff because it's on their jerseys and their banners or whatever. But that's
below
just
their Twitch.
You can't even click anything. You can't even click anything. And that's what people are selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. I mean, that's what everybody sells, right? In the esports space, sponsorships are huge.
One benefit,
like a NASCAR, every car has all these sponsors on it, and because people can see it.
Yep.
If you couldn't do anything, if you couldn't stare at a NASCAR, if you couldn't see anything, then why would anybody sponsor a NASCAR team or a NASCAR driver? It'd be pointless. There's nothing for the sponsor to gain out of it.
Yeah. I think that there's one potential boon if people are willing to continue to organize it in for online tournaments, and that's stuff like what Solary does, right? You take a couple of your players, consolidate it into one stream, and then you use that one stream as a place for everyone who's interested in watching these pros who are hopefully performing and thus drawing viewers to so you're showing off all your individual players on this one platform, and you also get to slide all your sponsorship in there, right? From ads to whatever else. And Solary gets hefty viewership when they're doing that.
Yep.
I think that's something that other orgs really should be keeping an eye on, even if it's not like casting events or something, but just like serving as a hub for all their players competing or whatever.
I think Solary does an amazing job.
Solary does an incredible job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they do an amazing job.
Yeah, completely.
But again, that's another thing. That's a whole productions thing that they're doing.
Yeah, they're putting time, effort, and money into
that. Anybody, not everybody can just do that,
Yep. I agree completely. There's definitely, and well, that's the frustration in the beginning point, right? Is that like in other esports, individuals don't have to be like so responsible for making those opportunities, right? For better or for worse.
All right, let's move on a bit. We'll get an opportunity to talk a little bit more about orgs, I think, later on for sure, because Concealed, you have a very good insight. I think we'll talk a little bit about later. We're gonna pull in our good friend, Destiny's Jesus, has been a couple times on the show. What's up, Destiny's?
What it do?
I'm good. How's everybody?
What you want to talk
good,
about?
Man, how about yourself?
I'm good.
Pleasantries, you polite folk. Get down to it.
Okay. All right, so I've got mainly 2 topics related to the new game of squads. Obviously, we've had squads in the past, right? But that was way before. I think the last squad scrims weren't even moving zones, right? Like it was way before. Like people would get fully into endgame, right? So I just want to think about how the meta of each individual squad match is going to work. Because if they keep the same mat cap, you're going to have 6k mats on mid ground, right? You're going to be able to play mid ground for ages, as well as the actual meta of how people are going to form squads. Meta is probably not the right word, but how people are going to form squads. So a lot of people are just forming squads off of trios, right? Where they'll get a solo into their trio. And then often some cases where people are just getting duos. I want to you think would be best for both, right?
Do you think that's the wrong approach to like fill a trio?
'Cause I think with trios, right, it was mostly just duos, and they'd find a solo, and that was like
Yep.
snaking season, right? Where everybody would
Yep.
just ditch the duo to go play for another duo. So I wonder how people are going to do it, where it's just going to be maybe like you get a World Cup duo who qualified, right?
Yeah.
And then you keep them together, and maybe they play trios together, right? And then that's where you add in to another duo, right? Or you could just take a trio that's already had good results, and then you add in another person, random. It depends how well that person's going to fit, right? Because obviously there's a lot of roles within each squad.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to time and effort, right? Like having a duo that works well together, already has established chemistry, and finding someone who works well enough to slot into that dichotomy, I guess. Like that's the easiest and quickest approach. You're only having to worry about one person meshing with an already established base. Same thing for trios, right? But you know, there's obviously individual considerations. This one match to one, you know, all throughout the whole trio. But I feel like you can get lucky and accomplish great depth in that trio or in that squad where you got the three and you find the one. But I feel like the best situation ideally would be a situation where all four people individually feel confident with each other and not just we're a trio that's like doing pretty well with this extra guy. Does that make sense? Like eventually after playing you like form in together, but I think that's the big consideration of how teams go about finding these teams.
I think it all breaks down after a certain point. Like at the top of the top, sure, you can pick and choose like, oh, I'm going to pick a World Cup duo with my World Cup duo. But after a while, it's like, well, if that doesn't work, you just try it out. So at the top, sure, they have that privilege. They can be like, yeah, I can do whatever. But for everybody else, it's like, well, I'm just going to try people out. I'm going to try to find us like everybody down in Atlantis is not looking. They're not in there like, oh, I'm gonna try to fill my trio or whatever it is, unless they're lucky. They're doing the grind. They're doing the same old thing that they always do, which is like looking for two in Atlantis. They're spamming that chat. I don't see as it's gonna affect too much. Besides, like maybe some teams are gonna get off to a weird start. Like for example, I think Booga's squad might be off to a little weird start.
And we saw a lot of that in trios.
Yeah, we had exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Like Saf and Zayt, they picked up Bizzle, and then it was like it worked for a while. They had a honeymoon period, and then it stopped working, and they're like, maybe not. There was the Dubs, Mega, and Booga trio, the Dubs, Bizzle, and Booga trio,
Bizzle,
which was like, wow, that's a super team. But it doesn't actually work on paper because they're all trying to lead, and none of them are. None of them can get rid of their ego enough to get led by the correct person, right? And that breaks down. So yeah, it's just trial and error. I don't necessarily think that it's a concern for a lot of people. Sure, it's a concern for the people to look for squads. That's for sure, obviously.
I also wonder if there's going to be a thing where maybe, obviously you play endgame together, but like mid-game, you maybe play as a duo, right? So a lot of duos, they've got really good chemistry to play off of each other and play like peeks around each other, stuff like that in a fight. And then maybe you could even translate to late game where you'll have a duo that always paths and keeps track of like what you're doing, mid-ground, stuff like that. And then there's another duo that goes for kills. So I mean, that's what you get different styles. I know in the EU, right, Bella EU and Tohaj and Mr. Savage, right? That's kind of like a clash of different styles of play, right? Yep. Where Ballatw and Tohaj and their old trio, they'd always just sit on mid-ground. They just get mid-ground and they'd get top 3 every single game just from being really effective at mid-ground, right? Yep. And they'd fit that in with other people as well.
With Mr. Savage, there's the what you're referencing is that like he is legit so aggressive and very active and looking for things, whereas they like to play that mid-ground style, which is. We actually saw that in trios with Booga. I'm going to say Booga again, but Booga's trio. Booga is literally the mid-ground god when he played with Animal Aspect. It's like mid-ground. But then he picked up Clarity G and Stretch, who were not like that. They were not like that at all. They were contesting high ground a lot, but they never did it.
Yeah, and I think, this is less, putting together teams and more of like how squads will play out in game. This is something we talked a little bit with it was either Cease or Elevate about how, in my mind, squads feels nicer on paper because you can do these splits, like you said, where where two people are focused on being like really, really, really tight with each other, and the other duo is focused on being really, really tight with each other, and then combining those forces, right, to accomplish things in game. Different forms of splits and high ground takes, and different ways to hold whatever position you're playing, be it low, mid, or high in the end game. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to how willing other teams are to capitalize on splits, right? Because if you've got teams that are just like, nope, screw it, we're deathballing, 4 of us stick together, and the second we see someone even remotely split as 2, or God forbid 1, like, we're all jumping on them, right? If that becomes like the meta quickly, then that style of play may not even ever get the chance to get off the ground, right? So I think so much of these conversations, obviously, have to happen against the backdrop of items and map changes, right? Especially with
I think that the release of
2 weeks.
Yeah, we'll see what the changes, the map changes, and how everybody's gonna play the meta. I think most people are gonna, kind of like you said, are gonna push. Now that you have 4 people in a squad, is that if you see somebody kind of split from their squad, you're just gonna just push them, right? Because it's essentially a free kill, and then you already got the advantage. Once you get that kill, you're up 4-3 on the next squad or whoever might be around.
Yeah.
So
I think 4v4 fights are going to be horrible, though. Like,
I think
if it's ever got a 4v4,
I don't know. Yeah,
can't watch it. There's no way you can spectate a 4v4, right?
Just zoomed out the whole time. Yeah.
I don't know.
Panning shot. It's going to be awful.
Yeah, I don't know how people are going to do that.
I mean, you have to pick. You just pick, right? You just pick micro fights. It's going to be all on observing teams. Whoever's observing, whether it's, Clay on his stream casting like a boss, or it's the official Fortnite team, right? They're going to just have to pick, like, we want to focus on this micro fight right now. And they're going to have to be on their toes. Like, that's the only way it's going to work.
You imagine as a player having a 4v4 fight and just trying to listen to sound cues in your headset and figure out what's going on around you?
Clear comps are going to be, like, even more important than ever before.
What?
Yeah, that's going to be insane. I didn't even
just
think
footsteps
about that.
everywhere and shots everywhere. And
you don't know
nobody
what's
knows
friendly,
what's going
you
on.
don't know what's... Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be rough. Well, that kind of begged the question. I thought going into trios that trading, like long distance trades, would be more viable, where like you have someone put out baiting shots and stuff, right? Where you're willing to potentially lose a player to getting downed in a mid to long range distance engagement, if it lets you get a lot of damage or multiple shield cracks or something, or even 2 knocks out of it as your own team. But the fact of the matter is that generally the way it plays out, if you bait by letting one of your teammates get knocked, 3v2 is just so insurmountable. Your options are so much limited. Good luck ever getting a pinch on anybody when you're 2v3. But 3v4, does that style of play start to make a little more sense of not closing gaps as quickly as you can when you want to fight, but playing more to these mid-range engagements as people can hold angles and push people off?
Still, that extra person does so much and can like change so much.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's true.
I mean, we've seen fights before in squads. Now the difference between way back then and now is pretty big mechanically, right? Now it's literally people who are so ridiculously good and fast that they can keep up with a bunch of different things at the same time and take shots on like 3 different people at the same time. But the end all be all was that eventually, right, in competitive, you're gonna end up losing somebody or having to box up down below, and then a fight will stop. A fight will stalemate, and that's the case in every single mode, in trios, everything. The only time like fights really end was in the open competitions, where it's like, okay, Margot, Benji, and Mitra are just rolling over a team because there's nothing that they can do. That'll happen again, but when it comes to pro versus pro, you're going to see one person get killed, and then the fight's going to be over. That's going to be it, and they're just going to box up, and it's going to be very, very difficult to move on from that. So it'll be interesting. I don't think that there's such a huge concern about spectating, 4v4 fights and stuff like that. I really don't, because to me, trios was the same way. To me, duos was the same way. You're watching, it's already so tough to keep up with. That the picking the right POV it's whatever. Like you get the information that you need, and you can go watch it later, right? You can go ahead and go watch it later or whatever. You can replay it back. As long as you get the information that you need and you're in the fight is the important part. Sure, you want to catch the cam that is about, like, that is the action, but at the end of the day, like, you're taking a gamble. You're guessing, really. You're guessing that this person is going to get the nice shots. That's been the case through all of esports observing. Even 1v1 games, it's like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and watch the person who has the biggest chance of coming back because that's what it is. Like, I have to. If I'm not watching this person and they come back, then it's like, well, I screwed up. But if
I made the mistake.
You know, the winner, and he's just like winning, and it's like, okay, whatever. Like, or you watch the loser, they have the chance to come back, but they don't do anything. It's like it's loses all around in observing, which is the tough part, and why I feel like all the flack that the observers get is completely unfounded. It's like so difficult to do the right thing. Sure, you can do a bunch of fancy stuff. I think a lot with their 3-up camera views are going to be actually useful in mid game, for example, like 2 POVs and a wide shot. That'll be awesome. But yeah, I'm not concerned. I'm really not. We're going to watch the game no matter what.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair
I think
enough.
people are mostly concerned like when there's just no action happening, or there's nothing happening, and you're just watching people literally just like farm mats. That's just like, it's like, okay, you can definitely switch here now. Can you just move it around?
I remember, what was it, at the Pro-Am, whatever, when I think the observer was AFK and they were just watching high distortion farm an entire house out for like 6 minutes.
Yeah, like things like that. It's like, what's happening? Like, there's so many fights happening, and you're just like, oh, here, farm this tree for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they switch and the fight's over, and it's like, what the heck? Is like nobody watching kill feeds or anything?
They switch
like,
back, and he's been heavy sniper, because heavy sniper is a smart, competitive item that should definitely be in the game.
You see, now you sound like all the players. Now you got everybody soft in here.
Go back to enjoying your solos competition with heavy snipers and exploding mechs. Gosh, why are you even here? Just kidding. All right, Destiny, thanks so much for bringing this topic, man. Really appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it,
much love, bro.
All right, Balla's grabbing our next guest here. Concealed, I wanted to talk to you a little bit here, just a bit, because I want to talk about some of these items and stuff that have been added over the last couple of weeks. A lot of them are fan favorites. Bouncers, flint knock, that kind of stuff, right? The return of the grappler, kind of. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's going to be, I mean, we don't know. But
we don't know, right?
Presumably it's going to be pretty different. It was supposed to be
this week, and now it's being held back. So it's going to change at some point, but when?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't feel too bad.
What's going to change? We don't know.
There's a lot of outrage. I don't know if it's really outrage about like the season getting extended, but like that's the norm at this point, right? Like I don't read too much into it, but once again, the optimist to me wants to shout from the rooftops like they're pushing it back because they know they have to make it better. They know they have to make it amazing. Yeah. That's why they're pushing it back.
Yeah, I mean, we can all hope and pray, right? But if that's really the case, then I don't know.
That's what we got. So, Balla, you got a guest in here?
Yes, sir. Lunar, man. What's your name? Where are you calling from? I just said your name, but where are you calling from, man?
Oceana.
Nice.
Hey, that's awesome, dude.
Welcome.
This is early. This is
it's really early or late for you. You got to help us out. We're done NA.
It's 10:30 in the morning at the moment.
Okay. That's actually not too bad. That's nice. Let's go. That's the dream. That's the dream. What do you want to talk about?
So I had a lot of topics, but at the moment, probably the one about consistency points, where in the FNCS Trios event, the one that just passed, you would get consistency points with only a single trio. So playing with multiple trios would make it less likely for you to qualify for the finals. But with this, in squads, you could have each player get individual consistency points. So playing with multiple squads, you could still qualify for the finals.
Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't qualify as a squad. You'd then at that point have to put together a squad of other qualified people.
So if you played with one squad, you would all and still qualified. You could all just squad up again. But this would allow people to shuffle around squads if they're not happy and still give them a higher chance to qualify.
All right. Question. Why do you want that? I'm curious. Like, is there any example of somebody that maybe should have qualified but didn't qualify because they played with a bunch of different trios, or that they couldn't play with the correct trio that you wanted them to play with? Or I'm curious, like, what the incentive is for them to put that. I think I saw like Poach, for example, like complaining about that fact. But yeah, I'm curious, like, what the use case is for this, or what the example is that you might be thinking of.
So personally, for me, I didn't qualify for my region's FNCS because I played with 4 different trios because I couldn't build, like, I didn't feel like there was any synergy there.
For whatever
So
reason,
different
yeah.
people would leave the trio and whatnot. So I just feel like this would give players that would be good enough to compete in that a higher chance of qualifying, even if they're not working with specific people. And it would also give trios like there was a case in our region, Rushed, Luton, and Uzon, that none of them liked each other, but they were locked into playing with each other for the entire tournament just so they would qualify. Like there are a lot of people who didn't like playing, but they were forced to play together so they would qualify. So this would be good to help people like more enjoy the event as well as give people a better opportunity to qualify if they deserve it.
I don't like my knee-jerk reaction is to say that I don't think that there's necessarily a problem with that, but it would need to be an extension onto. It would need to be a part that elongates the currently existing tournament, right? Or maybe you could even argue that that's what arena's for, right? If we're given more time before the events start. But at some point, you've got to lock in a team, if for no other reason than to keep a coherent esport where people can follow teams, all right? Where people know what's happening, what's going on, and what their favorite players are doing, right? Like, at some point, all the team swapping and stuff, like, it's fantastic. Snaking season is great for storylines and development, and like it can be a blast. I hope we see more of that. But there always has to be like a long enough lock-in period where things like actually matter now, and following this team instead of individual players actually matters. Whereas, you know, if a system like this is implemented, it just creates a longer period of time where those sort of things are up in the air for a spectator, right? But on the flip side, I think you're right in that it would generally be like a quality of life boon for the average competitor, right? So I don't know. What's your take on that, Balla?
I think what is missing from this whole system, I don't necessarily think that we need like solos to qualify, because I don't think that makes sense, right? I don't think that makes sense in a team game. Maybe in like duos, but even then it's like it's easy to find a duo that you're consistent with and that you like to play with.
Yeah.
To me, it's like what I think is missing is the aspect of being able to like pick up a new player during the tournament, like after you qualify, drop somebody and pick up a player. Because that's the thing in other games, right? In Counter-Strike and in PUBG or anything like that. It's like, well, we qualified with this team, but I don't think we can actually make it to the finals with this player. I think we need to make a change. We need to drop somebody and pick somebody else up. And there was the only place that was available was in the trading system, which I think was super flawed, because everybody had to. It was really like a griefing system. It's like, well. I'm gonna force a trade because I don't want to play with you guys. Like in some cases, that was what happened. It was like, well, we can't do anything. We're either not playing or we're trading you, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you could have just the option to just drop them and they don't get to play, which would suck. But like at the end of the day, like this is the top of the top, the best of the best. Like they need to sort out teammates.
Yeah, like you mentioned, you have it in other esports, like where you have to keep a certain amount of players from the original roster, and you can still make a change, before playoffs. And then let's say you have to keep minimum, if it's squads, 3 out of 4 players have to be in the same squad, and you can swap one player out. I think that would work really well for everybody. But you can't just every week, have 4 new players and just think you're gonna get by consistent points, because
yeah, I mean it's just a trade-off for like slight quality of life for the guy who has a hard time finding a team to stick with versus all these other negatives of having so much of fluctuation going forward into the future. And something that might make that easier, like you said, like if from the beginning all of your points are transferable, as long as it's done like through an official system, right? If you've got an in-game UI where you can, all right, this is our team, like this is our team unit. Even if I leave, even if all 4 original members like aren't in it anymore, right? As long as like people chain competed or something, and you can drop people in and out as you need to as things go on. Like those sorts of things I think could work, but just keeping it totally open and having points transfer by player instead of by team at all. I think I don't think that there's enough value add for the confusion and really just the confusion at all levels, right? Lack of consistency from both the playing side and from the viewing experience or the following experience. Cool. Thank you so much, Lunar. Thank you so much for calling in your morning from OCE. Really appreciate it, and I hope you have a fantastic evening.
You have a great night, man.
Or
You
day.
too, guys.
Morning. Early afternoon.
Morning, yeah.
Pre-noon.
Yeah, it is more.
Peace, bro.
Alright, see you guys.
Sweet, sweet, sweet. So before we got so rudely interrupted by Senor Balla here, I wanted to ask you about bouncers, Concealed. Bouncers are an interesting item to me because one thing I love about them and also kind of hate about them is the fact that they modify the entire loot pool, right? Your launch pads become better, your shockwaves become better, your flint knocks become better, right? They're easier to save falling damage with, significantly easier. Like, is this the first time we've had bouncers in games since the trap change, where you can instantly place a trap without a wall? So that's easier than with like a shockwave or with a launch pad, right? They're just crazy versatile and don't take an inventory slot. So we know, Balla, you've mentioned before in previous competitive formats that like a lot of the game was farm people till you had enough bouncers. Right, like just like hunt down kills to acquire and accumulate bouncers. Lately, that's been launch pads, and to a smaller extent, shockwaves. But those will often get used before you get a mid game kill. So I don't know.
I don't know. The bouncers are kind of weird. Like if you, I mean, I see a lot of the guys putting this stuff out, but have you seen the videos recently with like the aim stuff that you take a bouncer, you go in the air, and you're pretty much guaranteed dead.
Yeah.
So I look at it as like, what's the point of even taking that risk? You're floating so slowly in the air, and with the aim assist, well, you might as well just exit the game and start a new one, queue up again.
We mean, so
I think just in general though, like not
just
nothing
trying to
game changes. Just like that concept of farming people till you get enough bouncers to win the game is like it's pretty much dead to me because the zones go way farther now.
Yeah.
They go way farther than they ever used to, and people are grinding Kovacs day in and day out. Like it used to be. It used to be that launch pads were like the end all be all. Like if I got a launch pad, I'm like, yes, I'm gonna win the game. Woohoo!
Good luck now.
But now you use a launch pad like you used to, bro. You are dead. You are dead 90% of the time.
Yeah.
If you don't short launch with a launch pad, it's kind of crazy. I think that's the evolution of the game. I think bouncers are no longer like super good mobility.
they're not good mobility.
But I still love them in the game, man. They add so much
they're
versatility.
They do have a lot of versatility.
Plays like just my favorite clip that I've ever seen on the competitive subreddit was just from a scrim. It's from an endgame scrim back in the good old days, back when the OGs were playing scrims, back when 72 Hours and Poach were winning every single one. Where there was a clutch. It was a closed circle.
Oh yeah, the good old days of invite only. Good old days.
Hey man, listen.
You could actually get into prop back
man.
then. You could actually get into prop back then. Let's be clear.
Okay, good point.
Yeah, now there's 1,000 Discord servers with Prac on it.
Well, what I'm saying is like there was actually clips being posted on the competitive subreddit that were competitive, and I'm gonna take a shot at the subreddit right now because there was posts about pubs last night. Like, what am I looking at? Ninja Reverse 2K breaking a record for
in pubs.
Duels? Like, who the hell cares? Like, what is going on?
Congrats to them. That's cool and everything, but like competitive.
I think you guys are haters, to be honest.
You're
That
a
was a
hater.
great feat.
It's dope. It's rad, but like we got multiple subreddits for a reason. Like,
Anyways, there was a clip that was Tom final circle close. He was on low ground, and his teammate is healing off on the low ground, and he goes out to the side, bouncers up to high ground, and he goes in the zone, which was like unheard of at the time. He goes in the zone, places a bouncer, goes up on the high ground. It was like, oh shit, that's like 500 IQ. Like, I can't wait for those moments to happen in real games, and I think we even had some of them close to Twitch rivals. Like there were some nuts moments.
Yeah,
and not specifically because of the bouncers, but there could be those moments. That's the type of stuff I love. The flint knocks were freaking great, and I'm glad they're back because they make those moments. They make those exciting, explosive, fantastic moments that make your jaw drop. That make it just be like, what just happened?
You guys seen the video of like the shockwave where like J-Love shockwaves up, then rockets
RPG?
down, and like like that clip is nuts.
Rocket Man, man.
Rocket Man.
Yep.
Yeah, that clip was nuts. Like moments like that is what I
karaoke.
like.
I'm switching the channel categorization to karaoke real quick. Do some Elton John. One thing though about bouncers that's really interesting to me is the fact that, you know, I mentioned this concealed a minute ago, but just how it modifies every other form of movement in the game, right? It makes your shockwaves potentially better. It makes your launch pads potentially better, right? Oh. Given the circumstances, it makes your flint knocks potentially better, right? And I don't think that that's a bad thing. It's an increased skill cap by way of knowledge, right? And I don't know if you guys, you know, something great about the Fortnite competitive subreddit right now is there's an account called eSports Analytics that's been posting all of these breakdowns of different different launchpad strats and stuff, right? He's got so much more room to create content because there's so much more to know now. Now you can know all the timings and spacings for a short, you know, like a low launch off of a launch pad, you know, and like interesting things like that. Like what does that even do? Does that just make you go really far forward? I don't even know, right? Like what? Like
yeah. For super geeks like you and Respirit, you know, that's gonna be super awesome. But like, is that really practical knowledge to me? I don't really care.
I don't know.
I mean, dude, come on, launchpad bouncer into launchpad. It's like a 40% plus like increase in height and distance and stuff. Like that's a big deal. That takes your I mean,
I love the concept of modifiers. Like I love that. And the other concept I love with the bouncers, I think it's still unexplored. I think people still haven't figured out how to use them in competitive. Like I'm just randomly thinking off the top of my head because I haven't actually played an end game in forever. But like bouncers to tunnel forward, like to tunnel forward fast or something like that, or using them in these ways where you don't get Kovacs up the sky, like these little like.
I think right now there's just so many people in a game.
So much.
Yeah, there's so many people in the end game as far as teams that people are like scared to take that risk, right? What if you don't land there properly and you just kind of just fall off the
yeah. Well, I think that's
and it's game over, right, for you because you're gonna get just destroyed by 9 stings, somebody throwing nades, and the dude shooting you with his SMG.
I think that's another great use case for bouncers, though. You mentioned teams and stuff, right? Like shockwaves lose some of their value in trios just because it's hard to do it all together, right? Launchpad is always this really solid, no matter what game mode I'm in.
Yeah, it's very consistent.
Everyone's going to use it, right? And a bouncer gives you another option for increased mobility where for your full team, whereas just like a shockwave might not quite get you there, or just like a grappler or a single flint knock might not get you there, right? A single bouncer on high ground can get you down without fall damage for your whole team, right? That kind of thing. I think there's legitimately value there.
All right, I got our next guest in here, Tim.
Hey, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Scribble and I'm from NA East.
Hey, representing that East land.
Welcome, man.
What's up, dudes?
Hey,
so what's up with the name? You got a couple spare bows in the back, like you looking for the boom bow? What's up with the name? I like it.
I've had it since 2010, I think.
Wow. OG, let's go. All right, what do you want to talk about?
I'm going to talk about Anaheim DreamHack and the Sweden one. They're not going to stream it, and it's a BYOC LAN, which I'm surprised about. And it doesn't really have any coverage apart from just going to the event. The reason I'm going to the Anaheim one is to try to make connections and win the money, possibly.
Smart.
I just want to know, what's your guys' opinion on the event? So it's the first LAN we're going to have in 2020, the Anaheim one, and the Sweden one that's more upcoming.
Totally. It is weird that it's not being broadcast at all. I guess that kind of like indicates already that it's not going to be like a mainline event. I don't know, Balla Concealed, you guys might know more about this.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you from like our experience, obviously we have some of the guys going to the Sweden one already. And I'm sure the NA guys will go to the NA side of it. I think it's just so many people in there. This is a BYOB event that how can you really stream it, right? Like what, dude? Like there's thousands of computers in there.
Yeah. That
people just bring to this massive place, and it's like if you buy a ticket, you can play in the Fortnite event automatically.
So it's like a Comic-Con style thing where it's just like.
So it's like anybody can play it. It's open to everybody. So it's like it's such a big event. It would be so difficult. Can you imagine what it would take to like get that all together when you have 1,000-something computers in one place? And I wish it was streamed, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean that's just difficult, right? Like I helped run our Comic-Con Fortnite Bring Your Own Computer event last year, and Oh, I don't want to do it ever again.
Last year we didn't have customs. Like we didn't have customs. It's completely different.
You're
now.
right.
We
There
have
were no
customs.
customs. It was
customs.
bot races, right? It was 2v2 bot races. Is what
Yeah.
was the format there.
I don't even know what if I know the format is solos, that's all I know. I'm sure there'll be customs for it. But
Is there a source on not being streamed?
I don't know. I thought it might be since it is DreamHack, so they usually
It's
put
500K like compared to their usual 50.
Yeah. It's still a good price pool for it.
It's
I mean, it's
250K
500K,
each.
but it's 250K on each event.
Yeah.
But still, that
Which
seems
is
more than
very
enough.
good.
Yeah, to warrant.
Oh,
to
yeah, I
warrant,
mean,
like
that's
some
definitely more than
broadcast.
enough.
Sparebo, do you have a? Where did you last hear that? How old is this information?
They released information maybe a week ago because I remember I saw they tweeted it. I'm like, oh, maybe it's a free land. Because Anaheim isn't that far from me. It's like maybe a 3-hour plane drive. I mean, not plane drive. I'm just playing. So, and it's a BYOC, so I could just either carry as a carry-on item since they allow you sometimes. I'm pretty sure. And it's solos. That's the only weird thing I'm worried about. Since it's an event that we had no practice for, and solos are these horrible cops.
Okay, I don't think we know if Anaheim is solos or not. I know we know that the Sweden DreamHack Open
Sweden one is solos.
for sure. For sure, but the Anaheim doesn't actually have information about it. I'm pretty confident about that. So it could not be, it might not be solos. It might not even be an open event. We have no idea about the Anaheim yet, to be honest. From what I can tell. Typically it is an open event, but DreamHack hasn't actually hosted any events in Anaheim from my knowledge. But I also want to counter this thing that like this BYOC type big DreamHack land cannot be like it's hard to do anything because I don't think you guys know this, but the CS:GO tournaments that are DreamHack Opens, it's the same thing. It's anybody who gets a BYOC ticket can go ahead and compete and try to qualify for the finals of the DreamHack Open. That's why it's called the Open event. It's been that way forever. DreamHack is very, very consistent in doing that. So I'm sure they have some sort of interesting format. And
I think it probably will be streamed. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into that deep. I just know the guys are going. I'll probably be going out there too. So, but I'd be surprised if it's not streamed somewhere, especially with Fortnite being so big and how it is now.
Yeah, that would be really surprising to me. So yeah, I really hope it is, but there's not a ton of.
Would that be the biggest EU land that they have for Fortnite yet so far, right?
No, it's okay. It was bigger.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm talking about as far as Fortnite. Oh, they did have Katowice.
Oh, DreamHack, you mean?
Yeah.
DreamHack, yes, their biggest one so far.
Right? For Fortnite, at least.
But not like the biggest EU tournament yet.
No.
Sparebo, you were right about Anaheim. It is solos, by the way, but there's not much information besides that. So, I think it'll be great. I love to see that DreamHack is getting involved. Honestly, I'm excited for it. I'd love to know more information. I'd love to have something about the format. Like, what the heck are we playing besides solos? It's funny because I think a lot of tournament organizers right now are like, okay, cool, we're running a Fortnite event, we're running solos, and then it's like, what else is like? Okay, cool. Like, what are we actually playing? I get DMs all the time, Yeah, I get DMs like, oh, you want to cast this tournament? We're playing a duos tournament. We're inviting a lot of people. I'm like, okay, like, what are you doing? I have no clue what you're doing. I'm not going to cast a tournament where the format is like, I don't know. It's up in the air. I have no idea what you're playing. It's a completely different game from one format to the other. So I'd love more information. I'm excited DreamHack's getting involved. I hope they're talking to people that are going to be able to help them run successful tournaments like War Legend in Europe, or even some people like freaking players or people who are experienced like GG Circuit running some tournaments here. Epic. I hope Epic is seriously involved in helping them make a successful tournament.
Yeah, I wish more tournament people like would consult with at least some small group of like top tier players to kind of get their input on anything involving the player side of things.
Yeah.
That's you, Epic, if you're listening.
And I'm sure from like an org perspective that the more third parties get involved and they're able to more promote organizations involved, right? Like that's only going to be a good thing for you guys, right? Like,
yeah.
So
I think the DreamHack events are going to be huge if they can, execute it properly.
That's always the if with Fortnite, it seems, which is always always weird to me. Like I get it's different. I get it's on a scale that like isn't really done a lot, but man, is it disappointing to go from like watching CS:GO majors to like watching a Fortnite event. And you're like, oh, the heat's been delayed 6 hours, and you're like, what's happening? Or like, my favorite player didn't make it in game, so he's screwed. He can't win now. Like, oh, all right.
Yeah, that's the thing with Fortnite. It's like you can't really watch your favorite player all the time. You know, some people follow, for example, Tfue, but you know, there's 100 players in that match, and if he dies early, it's like, oh, I'm watching the game, but I'm not watching my favorite player.
One thing that Epic has said is that, you know, one thing that they hinted at in that AMA, right? They hinted at a lot of things, but one thing they hinted at was that they're interested in exploring situations where individual players can stream their perspective, right? Potentially even to their own Twitch channels and stuff. And this is something we saw while not organized by Epic, but you know, at TwitchCon as per usual, right? And I think I had heard that was run by the same production company. So I don't know. There's always a hope. Like, there's a possibility. I think that would be pretty big. That'd be big for the big players, right? That'd be big for Tfue, but it wouldn't be big for relatively unknown names, right? It might help some, but if no one's watching the main broadcast because they're all just going to watch Tfue's run through the major tournament, that's not really going to help a lot of people anyway, right? So it's just different coins of that.
No, it'll be interesting, specifically about DreamHack. Anyways, Sparrow, thank you for the question, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Hope you
Have a great day.
Have a good night.
Better, man.
All right.
Yo! Oh my goodness!
Oh, no, you brought trouble.
Yo, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Jamil. I'm calling from Trinidad, and I have a good question today.
Okay.
All right. What up, it's Shy Wager? You already know who it is.
Hold up. Shayo, wait, back it
Yeah.
up. Same question as always. How many flowers are on your shirt today?
Actually 2. Not gonna lie, I'm wearing a Red Hot Chili Peppers shirt. It looks nice.
Nice. Okay. All right.
Sure,
I was about to get
yes.
real mad at you. I was about to tell you you're not allowed to call in without flowers on your shirts anymore. Look, I can't check. All you have to do is say that they're there.
Yeah, they're here. They're here, 100%.
All right. What do you want to talk
All right.
about?
All right, so international competition. I was like looking at it, right? I'm like, hey, like usually games have like a EU versus NA regional type of thing, and orgs are kind of limited to one region. Sometimes they go under different names in different regions. But in Fortnite, it's like you have multiple players signed across regions. So like, is it better to have competition kind of be more international region versus region wise? Is it better to have players kind of split across? How does the rivalry kind of come up? Like we miss a lot, but we have a lot. I just wanted to talk about all that.
I think it's difficult, right, to make it cross-region just due to latency issues.
Yeah.
I do like, for example, like the World Cup, I do like regions against each other, right? I think that's one of the big storylines, especially in like regular sports when events like big events like that happen. People really pull for like NA or Europe or whatever it might be. You know, people really stick by that player just because they're from that country, and I think it just builds that fan base. I like how it is now, but I mean, I think with our space is a little bit different because just latency issues. We can't really. How do we? Most of the events are online, so how do we really combine, for example, somebody from EU and NA to play in a NA West Cup? Like that's not gonna work.
Yeah, but like when you're on an international stage, is it better to have like orgs versus orgs, where it's like, you know, FaZe versus RBK, even though you guys have players in multiple regions, or is it better to have like, you know, EU versus NA and have like, you know, players limited region by region?
I mean, if we're talking about Epic, it's not going to be anything with orgs, right? So it's obviously going to have to be something with region against region.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, right? You could still have a team full of org members. There could be an RBK team, a squad that's full of RBK players, and regardless of what Epic does.
Yeah, I mean, we had that in
RBK
trios,
team.
right? We had that with J-Lo, Vando, and Erm. It was.
And there's the we would call them the RBK guys.
Yeah, the RBK team. But I'm guessing he's talking about like if there was a LAN specific to an org versus org kind of thing. Is that what you're referring to, Shayo?
No, I'm just saying in general, like the way things are kind of perceived, like in the game Fortnite specifically compared to other games. Like usually when there is an international competition, there's heavy, you know, rivalries between EU and NA. I just think that gets undercut because there's like, you know, orgs like RBK that have a player in EU and a player in NA. If they go against each other, you know, you see less of the EU and NA, you see more of org versus org. Like, is that a good or bad thing is a question.
I think it's a bad thing. I think it's a real bad thing. the way that we have it right now, because I'll give you an example, right? Like Isa Katowice, the first day we had NA win a couple games, and then EU was on top for a while. Like it was you and it was great. That tension was awesome, but like there's no full focus driver to be like, yeah, I want to cheer for this guy because he's NA, and when you actually come down to it, it's international competition. It's NA versus NA versus NA versus NA versus EU versus EU versus EU versus OC versus OC versus Asia, right? It's a free for all. Like it's never going to be EU versus NA unless we went to 50 versus 50 or something like that. It's literally never going to be specifically like that.
That's the part of the problem.
And it's hard to make it that way.
Yeah, it's part of the problem of throwing a wide net, right? It's like you create this situation that's easy for people to approach and root for something. My country, like that's a big freaking net. But the negative of that net is that, like you said, you don't have the fine level of support that organizations and individual players and creators need to actually like succeed outside of winning money in tournaments, right? And it doesn't create those sort of storylines in an actual event at that more micro level, right? It's just this broader NA versus EU instead of these specific players against these specific players. So from my perspective, I would love, like, obviously I come entirely from scenes that are, or I come from scenes that are entirely org based, right? And I love it. I grew up with that structure, and it's hard for me, honestly, to adjust to not having that. Because I think it's great, you know, to just imagine if American football suddenly became just like all freeform and jumbled up like this, and like you're watching the Olympic conglomerate teams every year, and there is no like micro level to follow those players on, right? Like you're just like, okay.
That's a great example, by the way. The Olympics.
That's just really good. Yeah.
What we're talking about, yeah, because you have a bunch of USA teams that are competing against each other. You have a bunch of solo USA players that are competing against each other. That's actually a really good example, and where it works pretty well. But when you think about the Olympics, right, it's like all those players are accruing medals for their team. Right, they're still on a team together, whereas Fortnite is not like that at all. But let me say why I would love this aspect, Shao, because every single any of the greatest esports events have all had a huge element of NA versus EU or Korea versus the world or whatever. All of them have had a huge aspect of that. I think specifically the recent CS major, for example, was only good because it was EU versus NA, right? I literally, okay, sure, there was the aspect of EG coming back and signing NRG, but it was really NA versus EU that was the big thing. It was like, can NA win again, right? The Cloud9 E-League Boston major was one of the best things. It was actually, in my mind, the best event ever because it had such a huge influence of NA versus EU. I'm sure you guys can think of a bunch of League of Legends or other
League of Legends. World's about to start now, and everybody's like pushing for EU. Like G2 is killing it, and everybody's like, "This is the year that EU might overtake, you know, Korea or China or anybody." And then the NA is kind of uprising, so it's like, oh, it's just a time like these type, like the NA scene's gonna begin to come up and upset somebody, you know.
And it doesn't matter who the team is at all.
It doesn't matter at all. It's just NA.
Exactly. So that's why it's awesome, because it's like super easy to make new fan bases over a specific team because they're your region. So I love that aspect. I hope we can do something about it, but it for right now it's broken. It doesn't work. Yeah,
the best situation when you have these levels of interest working in tandem, where you've got the wide net of regional support filtering down to and up from the smaller level of organizations and stuff, and when they're really starting to share, as one grows, the wider net grows with it, right? And then that filters off to everybody. It's the economic principle of a rising tide lifts all boats, except actually it works. Okay, Shayo, you had something else you want to talk about, or is that the one?
Yeah, I got a second question. I got something packing. You know
let's
what
do
it is?
it. Let's do it.
All right. So this is like, I kind of been cheesed because, you know, players are getting disrespected left and right. Like, people are tossing respect where respect is not due, in my opinion. The question is, how do you kind of define who's at the top? How do you kind of see, you know, a make-believe / fan player leaderboard in terms of skill? Like, is it, you know, like, how does a pass in someone's performance affect their current standings in the skill? Does it matter? Because the game changes so much. We're basically on Fortnite 4 now, right? We're basically on a completely different game compared to what TwitchCon was like. So how do you rank someone based off their skill currently? Is the present matter more? How does the past affect the ranking?
This is something we talked about, Balla, was it with Levin that we talked about this
Yeah.
a few episodes back? And talking about, like, what does a consistent rubric look like for fans and analysts to judge holistic skill, or at least, if not skill, skill is so subjective, right? I think more important to talk about is performance. You know, like, what are the rubrics to judge performance by? Some of the things mentioned that have to factor into that are results, right? But then the recency of results, right? Like a win ages ago, like Morgasi's win way back at PAX, like, does that hold any merit now, right? Like, probably not nearly as much as like Chat Vividence's lucky second place in FNCS, right? So I think there are a lot of factors that go into that discussion. So far, the closest thing we've ever gotten was that one leaderboard ran by that one guy used by Prackcord for
Rosenthal.
Rosenthal.
I didn't even agree with the Rosenthal leaderboard personally.
I don't think the Rosen one is good because that takes into account events that happen like summer skirmishes that were
And all it
last
does,
summer. So that's a year and a half. That was just like an invitational of, hey, you're on an org here, you get an invite. Like, oh, hey, you have a big stream, hey, you get an invite, you know? And there was like a big mix of players that weren't actually even good.
Yeah, and he's just going around like pseudo-arbitrarily assigning point values to different tournaments and events and stuff.
I like it though, don't get me wrong. It does keep like kind of like a good understanding because you can see the tournament results for everybody in one place.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah,
I have my take. All right, here's my take. You can't. Right now, you can't. And why? All right, well, think about this for a sec. How often do we have tournaments? Like, literally every 3 months we have a tournament. Like, it's not consistent. It's not fast. And when you think about it too, it's like one tournament is an invitational crop fest that has no good format. There's not. I'm thinking specifically of Twitch Rivals. I'm not saying that was a bad tournament. It was a great tournament. I loved it. But when you say, oh yeah, Pika and Rex and Tina Ray should definitely get a ton of value because they won TwitchCon. It's like, no, like TwitchCon was irrelevant almost. Great job.
Also,
the format was not there.
So confusing at the end. Wait, who won? We didn't wait. They're not on top of the leader. Wait, what? Who won?
Yeah, perpetual Fortnite fails. But it's like, okay, FNCS, and then we had 3 months ago now World Cup. Okay, cool. Like, I don't think it's possible to rank people, man. Like, I really don't. Right, especially with how fast the game changes. It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously can see consistency through players in certain like events. Like, for example, you're going to see no matter what, like Mitro and them, in the EU, like Chinkin and the other guys are like, they're always there. I feel like solos, duos, whatever it was, World Cup, they were there every time, and like FNCS, they were there a lot. And then in NA, it's same as well. But I don't know. I don't think you can rank anybody right now.
Here's an interesting question. Oh, sorry, Shayo.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, like, to define someone as definitively the best is just hard because
you can't do that.
Yeah. Even if you take a look at trios winners, or I think Balla mentioned or it was Joao can we swear on this show?
Yeah.
Okay,
please.
Cool. My bad. Listen,
please.
Like the like, even if you win trios, like, how does that kind of translate into squads, right? Like, it's completely irrelevant in my opinion because they're so different. So it's just hard, because then like people say stuff like this guy's 30th overall. It's like, I don't know.
Well,
and when you change the mode every dang 2 weeks, it's like, well, the only thing I can do is rank players individually. I can't even rank squads.
Not even like mode and map changes, or not even mode changes, but mapping, like actual base game changes. Like for you, Concealed, for RBK, like when scouting, if you're going for a lesser known name to grab, like, what matters more to you? They're like immediate game skill in the form of like things that can be shown off, in a single session, right? Mechanical skill, like these sorts of things. Or do you look more at like long-term adaptability, like someone like Som, who's just always going to do pretty good because they're really good at just like getting good at whatever Fortnite becomes.
Yeah.
So which one's a better long-term investment?
The hard thing with Fortnite is just always constantly changing. So how do you know what to invest in, right? I can invest into somebody right now, and then in next event, they're not very good at, for example, they're a great solo player. They're not good at working with a team. So they're not good at duos. They're not good at trios. They're not good at squads now. So it's like, if the next 3 events are team-based and he's really a good solo player, then really what's there's really nothing to.
Yeah,
You
it's
don't
like
get nothing out of it.
It's like week 2 of Worlds. Like you qualify, you're a really good pump player. The next mode is solos, and the pump gets vaulted. There's a combat out. Like nothing you did to qualify mattered. Like your entire identity is gone. Like eyes yelling trios, great. Toss a 4th person in and 1,500 more mats. Some people get overwhelmed, man. These guys are failing math in school. How are they gonna do math in game with more people? Like it's impossible, dude. Like you know what I mean? Like it's crazy.
Here's my final take on this. Right? It's possible. You can make a Rosenful leaderboard, but when you actually think about it, every single place on that leaderboard has a variability of like plus or minus 50. That's what it is. Like if you're in first, you could also be 49.
No, can't we look at that right now? Like I mean,
the best
like,
statement you can say. The best statement you can say about like any player when like when people tweet and stuff, right? Like this person's the best, so this person's probably the 3rd best. Like no, like the only thing you can say with any kind of accuracy is like I don't know, this guy's in my top 50. Like on a good day, like I don't know. Yeah, no, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. I don't think that's ever gonna change. I don't think that outside of like forcing some kind of contrived solution, like I don't think it's ever gonna change.
Don't get me
like,
wrong. Like if you look at these like standings though, like I'm looking at it right now. In the top 10, there's still really, really, really good players that are good right now in the top 10. You know what I mean? Like, I think in the top 10, 20 range, it is really close to it. You know, like those players belong there, but you can argue for who can be at the top, right?
Sure.
But once you start getting to like I don't know, look at.
Literally, there's people who are so good, and the next like mode happens, and they're gone.
I mean, I'm looking at it. I'm just looking at like the top 10, right? Just an EU base. Like if you look at the top 10 players in EU in this like standings, like you have people like Mongrel, Stumpy, Benji Fisher, Mitro, Crew, Chinkin, Savage. Like, would you not consider those top 10 players in EU?
Kinstar, yeah.
It's
you know what I mean? Like on the top 10, I can agree because they're consistent. But like if you get past the top 10, there's players on here that like.
I mean,
when
even
was the last time they even qualified for a tournament?
Well, even in top 25, you've got Wolfies, right? At 25.
I think he's better than that. I think he's
definitely, right? Like
but who knows?
It's one event, right? Like I don't know.
Who am I to say where he is? I look at the top. Yeah. I can agree with the top 10 being in there. Yes, outside of the top 10, it's hard because I mean, some people have points from here from like exactly like I said, like the summer skirmish from 2 years ago. That it's like, well, it puts him in the top 100 players in the world, and it's like,
yeah, I think.
Well, I don't necessarily think that they're still ranked using those points. Sure, they might have them like there, but I think when you click on it,
click on it, it just gives you points. Like even if you place at an event from a long time ago, it gives you points.
Well, it has to record those.
It kind of also goes back to like the whole point of like since we don't have some like org or region in the chart, we can't really see. You know,
like there is like, for example, there's a player here that has like placements on here from 2018, and like I just clicked on a random player, and it's got like the Fortnite Fun League in Polska.
The few players are heavily more ranked because there's so many more events. And
but you know what I'm saying? Like there's just like random events.
Who was there, right? Yeah. I get
you.
I
have
think,
no clue about that event.
I think for me, like, I it's not an episode of Hotline FM without it, but like, I really like the way that scene works in League of Legends, right? And that like you've got a set metric that you can say, look, these guys, like this player is top, rank 1 in Challenger, right? That's not saying they're the best at competitive League of Legends or competitive Fortnite, but with a better rank system, that gives you something definitive to say. You can say, this guy's better at climbing the ladder, like doing this, decently set up ranked system with declining points as well as increasing. That they're the best at that right now, right? And then the rest, everything actual competitive is just purely based off of recent performance, right? Like, how did this person do against this person? They beat him a bunch? Okay, we can say that maybe he's better than him. And like, I don't think we need to be able to say like who's top 10, who's top whatever. Like, screw it. Like, flaunting your earnings around, it gets kind of like old pretty fast. But
that drives the merch sales, bro. That drives the merch. You gotta have, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Good points. All
right, oh, man. Thank you. All right,
Shayo.
You're allowed to flex anything you want.
Fair enough. Shayo, thanks so much for hopping in here, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fair enough.
Enjoy your night/day/afternoon.
Love you, Shayo.
Will do.
Love you.
Somebody. Oh, whoops! I'm not gonna say your name. I'll let you say your name. Hey, next caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Somebody's gun.
What's up? How you doing?
We did, man.
Well, hopefully my mic's better than last time, not cutting out.
Sounds great.
So what I'm bringing to the show today is a post-FNCS All-Star game. You break it down similar to an NFL All-Star game. You have the event itself, and then afterwards or beforehand, you have other, fun games and stuff to bring content creation and competitive together. Shot wins an award, a 90s competition, a tunneling competition, and then you wrap it all together with like a 50v50 tournament or a 20v20 v20 v20, just to kind of have some fun content creation, relax a little bit.
Yes.
I like that a lot, actually.
Loving it.
I think that would be awesome to give the players, a little break from all the stress and give everybody a break from all the stress and just have a little fun.
I specifically think right away when you said 20v20, I think right away of the time that we had nothing to do. Actually, I'm going to bring this back in Pratt tonight. But we had nothing to do because there's literally no pop-ups. There was no settings where you could actually play the competitive mode. There's no siphon or anything. And what we did was we formed squads of 20. We queued up in squads, and we had to play like on separate teams. We had to team with the other squad to win the game.
Oh,
so they were all
gosh.
in the same call, and they all tried to play on the same skin, and they would all try to it was so much fun. Oh my God, it was a blast. Reddit was blowing up, even though it wasn't the content, or it wasn't the competitive thing, but it was so much fun. I would love something like that, like where you have,
Yeah, I think that'd be really
some
good.
twist. You have a bunch of different teams. You have a bunch of people who are both competitive. You have
Yeah.
casters,
We get that.
whatever.
We already
playing in it.
get that, Balla. We talked about. Aren't you interested in engaging twists like please build an Eiffel Tower or try and grapple across the whole map? No, that doesn't scratch the same itch for you. Okay, no, all right, weird. I mean, it did it for me. What can I say?
I'm glad
I don't
to
know
get
what's
off the
going on.
Eiffel Tower is being built. I don't know if RBK was in the scene at that point. They're in the
Dude, I
false
don't think
position. We had to build Eiffel Towers.
Yeah,
that
I was there.
crazy.
Well, we signed our first player. It was Triz, and it was for TwitchCon.
Yeah,
Our first
There you
TwitchCon
go.
event.
So
and this
it
was
after-
fall skirmish,
after
right? For all
that.
the shenanigans.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where we had the different we actually had that kind of stupid 20
Yeah, you had to
v20 type of
you had to
system where it was
build,
the
like,
dusty dogs and you had
Yeah,
to
the
get
dusty
from
dogs
point A
stuff,
to
yeah,
point
dude.
B.
There was a cart race, wasn't there? Like a little cart race where you
Yeah.
had to race the carts in the racetrack,
Yeah.
right? If I'm correct. The good golden days.
We need. I don't know where these ideas come from, but we need somebody's gun to run the All-Star tournament.
Hey, I'm down, guys.
let's do it. Yeah.
I'll
We don't-
definitely
we
put
don't
in a
need
good
to-
word for you. I might not know many people, but I know some.
I mean, 7 teams of 14 because of the 7 regions. You bring 14 players from each region. That could work too. I mean, there's a bunch of ways to break it down, but I think
Listen,
it's been so serious recently that something like this could help bring that content creation, the competitive scene back together, because they're starting to split apart, and that's not healthy for the game.
I mean, that just has to do with dead season, right? Like off season, dead season. Yikes.
Is it dead season though? Like there's still
off-season.
money to be won every day, pretty much. Like today is a cup, yesterday there's a cup, Tuesday there's a cup, Monday there's a cup, this weekend there'll be
This
another
is-
cup. So is it really dead season?
There's another cup this weekend?
There's a cup every day. I feel like.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing.
Yeah,
there's
it's
nothing
not.
after
I know-
today.
I know.
Here's the last.
I know we're used to cups for $10 million, but there's still money to be won.
But
I
there's
know it's like,
literally
oh, man.
nothing. There's nothing official from starting today. Like after today, there's nothing official
Today
announced.
until a new season, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep.
And even
Or
then,
at
like,
least
we're
until
just
something
expecting
else gets
announcements.
announced.
Yeah. It's like I can see it. Well, the big killer. The reason I call it off season is because we've been told that the season is something different than what anyone gets to do right now. Right? Like season is squads. You don't get to do it though. Sit on your hands, right? Like this is
And
gonna
do
be
you
the
really-
next
honestly, do we
multi-million-dollar
really
event.
Expect
Like,
anything else? Like,
That,
Are you guys shocked? Like,
I
I'm not
expect
shocked
better.
at all. I know Balla said
after last season, I
think certain
expect
things, but
something
you're not
better,
shocked?
but like,
Heck
I
no.
also know.
No, man, I'm not shocked
I'm not
about anything.
surprised. I'm not surprised, but my expectations are severely whelmed. Like, what?
Yeah.
I don't have
Yes,
expectations
exactly.
anymore, man. I just go with the
Let's
flow.
get back on topic. Let's get back on topic.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
We already have.
Hey,
an
Balla,
all-star
I have a
game.
question.
We already have. Hey, shut up, man. We already have kind of an all-star game. Let me ask you somebody's Gun. I don't know how to say your name. That sounds like
Call me Gun or
smooth.
Taylor, either or works.
you go.
It typically doesn't work.
Let me
in
ask
game.
you, Gun. Do you like the pro-ams?
I do. I found that enjoyable, especially at I think it's a cool event, but as someone competitive game, it's very different. So I think you draw two different crowds as someone who appreciates the competitive game versus the people who appreciate pro-ams and different fun events like that would be.
So you're basically asking to combine basically a pro-am and a competitive event, right?
Yeah, in a
make it less
similar way.
competitive. Use the
Just
competitive people.
remove the AM part of it.
Yes. Have the pros do more fun stuff. I mean, maybe they wouldn't be interested, but I think it'd be a cool way. Just have some fun, relax for a little bit.
In my head, that's something that might work.
Kovacs and
Yeah, in my head, that's something that might work and be more fun in like a franchise situation or something, right? Where you have like a very definitive list of these are the pros. But when almost everything is open, that would just feel so awkward to like, for me as a viewer especially, to like, these are the guys that like slayed out in these qualifiers I've been playing in, and like now they're going to compete. You know, half of them are known names, half of them are totally unknowns, and I'm gonna watch them like goof off. Like that might be fun for me to watch like Chapin72 goofing off in this event, but like the average person is gonna be like, I don't, like like most people are gonna be like Wolfies. Like I don't want to watch a pro-am with Wolfies. Like
Gun.
Why not? I would watch
a
that.
good way to.
I'd rather watch them
the
compete
fans
for real.
I would watch
Fans
Wolfies
vote.
content.
Yeah,
That'd be-
dude, Wolfies is
So
solid.
Gun did put a format in here that would alleviate that, Tim, where he said a third of it is fan vote. So you're gonna get Tifu, you're gonna get people who don't necessarily actually be
Okay,
good at
I
the
like
game,
that.
And then it's a third player vote, like players vote it, and then a third analyst, like the casters vote for somebody, or the news people,
Oh, that's
the
good.
media votes
I like that a
for
lot, actually.
people to get in.
That
Yeah.
could be sick. That could be sick. Yeah,
It'll be fun.
it'd be fun. I
But
would
yeah, for
never
sure.
want
Yeah,
it
but
to.
you'll have the big time like content creators there, the big time players, like you said, like Tifu and Courage, and all these people are gonna be there already, you know. And then you'll just get like some player votes, hopefully like some better
But like
players that are in there. and
realistically,
then-
what's the difference between that and the creative showdown, right? Like
because there's
Creative
not,
Showdown.
that's what I'm saying. Like who was
basically
there?
the same people, basically the exact same people that would show up under these systems.
I don't
right?
know because they have like
Fans
these
would vote
random,
in
like,
there,
NFL
amateurs.
Okay.
Yeah, but you have like
Yeah.
people that don't even play the game show up to these things.
Yeah, but if it's a fan
There'll be
vote,
people that
people will Oscar campaign. You know what I mean? Like screw it. Like Marshmallow will be like, everybody go vote for me. I want to go to this thing. I'm not saying.
Yeah, but that's good. That's really good if they do that. If Marshmallow's like, yeah, vote for me to be in the freaking creative showdown, then all of a sudden there's investment from his fans. They're like, yeah, I voted for him to be in this. But when they just invite random people, it's like, okay, cool, some NFL players are here. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know how the hell to play
Yeah,
the game.
especially if they don't really play. It's like you can tell in the gameplay. It's like, this is boring.
bring
The
it.
average viewer,
Booster.
the average person that watches Fortnite is actually not bad at the game. They're pretty good. We're getting to that point where even in pubs, like you see the quality of players, they're actually pretty good. It's not like it's a bunch of really bad players.
Two-time Pro-Am winner as a professional DJ. I don't even know what he does, but I'm sorry, I'm not a celebrity guy, but there's a celebrity somewhere who has won 2 Pro-Ams in a row with his teammate Airwax, and he's actually really good at the game. Like, really good at the game. So, like, the average
guess-
celebrity is pretty good at the game.
This stuff can be fun. I personally never found a lot of enjoyment in the pro-ams. I just honestly
me neither.
didn't pay a lot of attention to them at all. It's not enjoyable to me. And I guess I wouldn't have a problem. And especially if there were more pros and we could engage with those pros, like they were streaming themselves, or you could watch them individually or something, right? So you could actually engage with those creators or celebrities or pros involved in that sort of event. I think there are ways to make it more interesting for, like you said, the competitive base as well as the casual base. I just would never want it ever in a million years to be an instead of for an actual serious event, or to feel like it's taking away from that.
I think it's good to do for like
afterwards.
things like charity and stuff. I think it'd be awesome to have stuff like that.
Yeah,
bring a lot of viewership.
That would be fantastic. That's a great idea. Let's get Dr. Lupo on the line.
I'm going to go ahead and start my campaign to join the All-Star game. I would like you guys to vote for me next time because I never get to play in any of those damn Pro-Ams.
Team Hotline FN, bro. Team Hotline FN. We got this.
Go.
If
Easy
you guys
money.
do not vote in all the Raised by Kings players, I will be so upset.
Well, I mean, we got to get our own first. Okay. All right, somebody's gone. Thank you so much for bringing this topic. It's been fun to chat about it. I hope you have a fantastic evening.
Take care. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. You have a nice day.
Bye. That's the fun stuff, man. That's the fun stuff.
Yeah, the fun stuff's always fun.
Levin dropped by earlier today, and he brought up he's interested in franchising in League of Legends.
Oh, okay.
And I know that's a heady topic to get into, but
it's a good topic to get into.
Your quick take, like yes, no, how
Really
would
bad.
you feel about franchising? Really bad.
Franchising is dumb for esports.
What? Whoa!
That's the way I
like,
look at it.
Holistically for every esport?
I mean, I think franchising in general is the dumbest thing you
Who's it
can
bad
do for
for?
an esports organization. For the fans, for people that support certain parts of orgs.
Do you think it's bad?
Listen, I don't know. I think it's bad for the fans because you're stripping them away from that experience. Right? Let's take a look at it, the Overwatch League, right? You completely stripe away these teams. That's just my take from perspective. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Sure.
But a team like Optic Gaming, right? So a team that I really looked up to and like really enjoyed watching my whole time growing up. And then you put them in the Overwatch League and you completely like take away the Optic naming brand.
Yeah, that's dumb. That's dumb.
then
I
just
hate
like
that.
you make it the Houston Outlaws.
Yeah,
I'm
they're doing
like,
the same thing
I really
with
want
Call
to
of
follow
Duty.
Houston Outlaws.
Yeah.
Call of Duty, the same thing. Like imagine taking the brand away from 100 Thieves.
Yep. Well, that's why they didn't buy a slot.
They are a very
They didn't buy a slot.
brand-driven
Yeah.
organization. I agree with everything the 100 Thieves did. No way
Yeah.
I would purchase a $25
On the
million
flip side,
spot
though, you look
for you to
at
take away my brand.
but look at League of Legends, right? I hate to keep doing that, right? The money pumped back into that scene from Riot and Riot
But League of Legends is all org based.
is massive.
Yeah, but that has there's completely.
It's franchise, but it's all org.
Yeah, it's org-based
I'm thinking about,
franchising. That's how if Fortnite was ever to do franchising, that's the only form I would ever even kind of support, and it would have to be alongside opens.
No,
as well.
I think League of Legends is perfect.
I
Yeah.
tell you right now, just knowing that marketing team and like just think about the damn creative showdowns, man. Like we had the freaking Cuddle Team Crew or whatever. Like of course we're not gonna have org-based franchise. We're gonna give them a stupid name.
Oh
and we're
no!
gonna-
You can buy
No,
the
I'm
Dusty
serious,
Dog
like-
slot. Oh god.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me 20 million so we can
100%.
call you Dusty Dogs on national television over and over again. Like,
No
yikes.
way. League has it so good.
RBK Dusty Dogs, boys.
Like League has it so good, man. Like think about it. I'm a huge fan of League. But first, I'm a big 100 Thieves fan, so it's like I love watching 100 Thieves.
Yep.
And then I can follow 100 Thieves throughout all of their games, right? I follow their Fortnite players, I follow everything else. But when you take away 100 Thieves and you put it, let's say, Houston Outlaws, I'm like, don't want to watch Houston Outlaws. I'd rather watch something else. And then it's just my focus away from that game to something else.
Yep.
Yep.
enough.
I'm 100% with that. I do want to give an example though that doesn't always work in that case, and this is weird to me because I actually only found out recently that Sentinels is an Overwatch team. Like
Yeah.
Well,
they're
did
actually
they
own-
split though? Is it not? Now it's not owned by the same people, so I think it's split now, right?
well, I don't know
According to
that.
reports, I don't know. I don't know the whole details.
Cancel. I'm backing out of this topic. I don't know
what I'm talking about. We're stepping away.
Backing out.
Never mind. We're calling it. All right, Balla, do we have one more caller? We have a last caller today?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes, we do.
Hey,
We got
final caller. Yeah, Balla almost spoiled your own name drop.
I almost
What's your
spoiled
name
the
and where are you
even though it's
calling
on the
from?
screen.
My name is Kozar. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's kind of central U.S. Get bad ping, but it's okay.
Can you
up,
pronounce
Kozar?
the name of your city again?
Baton Rouge.
I always thought that was the dumbest shit as a kid.
Yeah,
I get
that's
it.
like-
I get it's French. but come on. When you're a
Baton
kid, that's
Rouge?
just not fair.
I like
Alright.
it because it's called the Red Stick. It's Red Stick.
Yeah, it's perfect. What do you want to talk about tonight?
So we're seeing a lot more kind of team-based modes, especially with trios, and now FCS rolling into squads. Are we seeing Fortnite in its early stages developing into not 100% org-based, but are we seeing them going to larger team modes, kind of how we've seen a lot of the major games, like you have CS, Call of Duty, Overwatch, League of Legends. Even though those are head-to-head, are we going to start seeing more orgs sign players for team modes, since that's kind of what it's developing into for down the road?
It's an interesting question, and obviously Concealed's gonna have the hottest take
Yeah.
here. But
I can tell you honestly, no.
Yeah, like I don't imagine, like, if things continue on the way they've continued on, like 1-to-1, why do you think that we'll see more players signed and not less?
We're seeing more players signed at the top, especially. We're seeing more organizations kind of come on board. We've seen Riot Squad, Rise, BBG kind of start having players at the top or signing players. Who knows what else orgs are starting to rise up, sign players to their specific teams. Are we going to see them sign more players if we still stay in competitive mode and have full like org-based rosters? Like you have a full Liquid squad, you have a full base squad, and others. Especially with squads coming up, are we seeing like this kind of be an early development if it does succeed?
Personally, I think you're gonna see. Orgs can only sign so many players, right? You can't have 30 players per team per org. So with the way Fortnite is, it changes constantly. Every month it's going to be a new game mode, or what might be a new tournament. So I don't know if you would necessarily just go and sign an entire squad right now, just if they place good at this next squad FNCS or what squad cup, whatever it might be. I don't think you sign the whole squad. I think you still sign just like maybe a single player or 2 players out of it. I don't know. Maybe everybody's different. Maybe everybody looks at it a little bit different.
I think you might see the opposite, right? Because what's going to happen, and this is a result of specifically the way that Fortnite has ended up in the squad mode, is that you're going to see players dropped more because there's some players that are just getting left in the dust, right? They started as a squad with whatever, the Ghost squad was a thing, the Team Liquid squad. They started as a squad. And then all of a sudden it's duos. Now they're broken up. Now it's trios again. One person's getting left off 100%, or he never was even there because that he just wasn't part of the trio. And then now we're going to squads. We're going to see we're seeing so much intermixing that's like, I think we're just going to start seeing people drop because they're left in the dust. They're like on some irrelevant team that's Poach was in this place. He was on a trio with Nut and Timmcd. Like, who's no offense to them, but only people who were paying very, very close attention knew who the hell they were. Yeah. And luckily they did well, but I could have totally seen a situation where Poach was like done. Like, he's not competitive at all anymore, and he would have been done with it. So I think we're gonna run into that, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, Concealed, you said, and I see it in chat here too, that orgs are hard because of how fluid Fortnite is. You never know how things are going to change and that kind of stuff. But like the fluidity wouldn't even matter if there's just more support, right, from Epic for orgs and for orgs to shine in the game and in events and that kind of stuff. Because then you sign towards that fluidity, knowing that you'll still have ways to get your names out if your players are doing semi well, right? And without that changing, I guess I just don't have the contacts or the right people. But I just don't see org involvement, like serious org involvement, really growing, right? Because anyone can sign anyone, right, on a contract that gives them nothing except to be able to have a name by them and maybe a little bit of some sponsor cash from their like Twitter page, like Balla said, right? But like these players, majority of these signed players aren't getting nice contracts, right? They're not getting sweet amenities,
Riot Squad signed Ziff and Ronaldo. I mean, come on, they can't have a good contract. I'm sorry, but there's no chance that an org is giving them a good contract. Like almost ever.
They're not making $40,000 even a year off their contract, right? Like.
But then again, right, looking from an org's perspective is outside of they obviously have their whole thing. I'm not going to comment on any of that. It's none of my business. But is you sign a player, and if that player is not producing anything, what does it matter with the contract that they have? You get what I'm saying? Like, I pay somebody, let's say, $1,500 a month, and if that player is not winning tournaments or streaming or doing anything, then what's the value there?
Yeah.
The other aspect is that there's definitely not going to be teams that sign full squads unless they're really gambling. Because guess what? Next season's going to be freaking like, I don't know, Cincos. It's going to be 5 teams of 5 or something like that. Like,
who knows what's going to happen?
It's going to be so dumb. Like, who knows? They're going to change it next season anyway. So what the hell is the point? There's no way. There's no consistency. There's only volatility, and that's why not only is it hard for
it's hard for orgs to keep growing too, especially with like how Epic just
they don't know what's going on. They can't predict them.
Like we can't. At first, we were really heavily involved with like we have to be all over Fortnite and everything, but now that you see it, like how Epic acts towards orgs, when there is really no exposure at all within the game, they block everything that your org is trying to do. Then it's like, well, do we really invest that much money in there? Like, is it really worth it?
Yeah. Money, time. Yep.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like, how much more interesting would the scene get? How much would the skill levels rise of the populace, both amongst the top tier pros and everyone else? And how much more involved would orgs be willing to get if I might have already said that one. If all Epic would have to do would say like give a 6-month competitive road plan of like we're doing squads for 6 months and it ends in the World Cup.
Oh, dude, it would be huge.
Bam! That's massive. That opens the fun. Even if they don't change anything else about org support, right? Now, buying out a whole team as an org makes sense because you get them referred to as RBK boys. You get them, like even if no other stuff happens, right? Like,
but there is no roadmap.
All it takes, all it would take is just the slightest bit of like consistency, like the littlest bit, and like amazing things could happen. Man, I feel like we're just always the like this game is in a weird bad spot podcast, but like
I think people say it's in a weird bad spot, but I think it's in a great spot. You really look at Epic's numbers, like you think they're worried about how small of a percentage.
Oh, the
really
game's doing fine. Yeah,
is.
the game's doing fine. Yeah.
Their marketing strategy is honestly, I think, it's genius, but maybe some people have a different take on that.
We talked about this a little bit, Balla, but how the game is like it's a marketing platform. Like that's how they monetized it, right? Like
you see how many deals they're getting with, like, for example, the NFL, like Batman, John Wick, like all these things. You think this game is doing bad, and you think that the main focus of Epic is esports, then I don't know, man. I think you're not really thinking from a business perspective. Esports is so small, but people don't understand, right? There's this pie of 100%, and esports is honestly so small outside of like somebody like a Ninja, right? That everybody considers Ninja like the greatest Fortnite player. My parents consider Ninja like they know Fortnite, they just know Ninja. But outside of that one person, that's an outlier. Esports is so small compared to what we think it is that why would the game completely change itself just to benefit the very few?
Yeah, and I feel like if we do see consistency, as Tim was saying, if we do see consistency and they're like, hey, let's do squads for the next 6 months, will we start seeing Fortnite potentially develop more as an esport? I mean, as well as with them having marketing, will we see it be compared to major esports? Will we see viewership go up? That's definitely huge questions to ask.
I agree completely. Pretty much every one of your predictions starts to come true the second there's some kind of long form consistency, right? Long-term consistency. Guys, we're just about out of time here. Kozar, thank you so much for your for bringing this topic and letting us talk about it with you.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
Have a fantastic evening. So we're just about out of time. We're already bleeding over a little bit, but I feel like we really need to talk about this at least a little bit if we're going to call ourselves a relevant platform. Skill-based matchmaking coming to pubs.
We didn't talk about it at all. No, we didn't talk. I knew it was coming, but we didn't talk about it at all. Skill-based matchmaking.
Skill-based matchmaking. We didn't talk about it like literally at all.
What skill-based matchmaking does Epic have right now?
So, okay, let's go over like the facts. The things we know. What we know is that right now in some regions, we don't know which ones, skill-based matchmaking has been implemented in pubs. So, I mean, competitive podcast. That's why we saved till the end, right? In pubs, in solos, in some regions, we don't know which ones, there's been skill-based matchmaking already implemented. We don't know for how long. And they're going to continue to roll it out. We don't know where or when or how. We don't know what it takes into account. We do know that it's merged cross-platform lobbies on those regions. So a PC...
In certain cases.
In certain cases. But you're not guaranteed to just be playing against PC players. A mobile player can get into your lobby without...
Then it's really skill-based?
We don't know. We literally don't know. We don't know what the metrics they're using, which is fine. Like, it's invisible elo, right? Like, no other game with a normals mode with an invisible elo, like, exposes that, right? That's the point of invisible elo. Otherwise, it just becomes a ranked mode, right? And there's a lot of freaking controversy around this, specifically tied to like smurfing, right? A lot of people seem to have problems with queue times at the higher tier of it and stuff. I think that a lot of that comes down to an implementation issue, but from like the pure ideology of it, every Fortnite player should be happy about skill-based matchmaking in pubs. Like that assists the curve of new players so much, right? It'll keep the game liver. It'll keep the game alive longer. I don't really see the downside aside from every game's going to be a sweat fest. Not if it's done well, not if it's implemented well, because no other game's normal mode is a sweat fest, right? Like unranked mode. So I'm at a loss with a lot of these complaints.
I don't know, man. I think there's too many variables in Fortnite for that to work. There's way too many variables, especially with cross-platform. Like, if you match a really good PC player against a console player, I mean against a mobile player, like, what?
Sure, but there are ways to gauge like relative skill. Like you can do things like the kind of data they have.
Yeah, but again,
it
comes down to
stuff.
There's so many variables, man, in Fortnite or any game that's like this in general that it's really hard to make that like system work.
Sure, but like originally, like your elo gains, I'm pretty sure in like say League of Legends, it's not just affected anymore by like whether you won or lost, and then the effective skill. It's not true elo, right? True elo is only concerned of your opponent's skill, your skill, and then whether you won or lost, like your prior ranking, right? Now it includes things like, did you place enough wards for your role? Like that's going to affect how much elo you gain or lose after a match, right? They can do things like that in Fortnite with the invisible elo behind the scenes, and arguably should for like a ranked arena mode, that are really tricky and interesting, right? Like they have the data to say like this person, when they took a fair fight where they exchanged shots, how often do they win that situation? Like even just something like that could be a great launching point to start to like filter it out, so you just don't have Aiden stomping on little kids, right? Like who are trying to get better at the game, or if they're not trying to get better at the game, they're playing regulars. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I can't believe he got banned.
I find this so difficult to talk about, and why because we don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
Literally, we don't know anything about what their metrics are, and so like when I see somebody tweeting about how skill-based matchmaking is increased queue times, it's like that's just a feeling. You don't know anything, man. You could just be like queuing at the wrong times, and you just saw that they talked about skill-based matchmaking, and all of a sudden you're complaining about queue times that were always the same. I don't know, man. It's just so tough because there's no information about it. I like the concept of it. It's so important, the implementation, but we'll never know the implementation. So again, it's tough to talk about. Sure, there's tons of these advanced metrics, and I know they could do a good job. I think there is a method of doing a good job as an engineer. I feel like there is a solution out there, and obviously they agree. But like, talking about it is difficult. I
don't know. I think we have to wait till it actually gets released, and like we have full details about everything.
They probably will never release full details, right? Like it's always going to be like, how do you feel like it has affected pubs, right? Which, from a competitive standpoint, it's whatever.
We don't even know like who's getting implemented, who has it.
Yeah, we have no clue. We have no clue about anything right now.
It's literally nobody has a clue about anything at all, like legit at all. Because there's people like, oh my god, I hate playing against these bots, or I never get the bots. I'm like, bro, the bots aren't even in the game yet. Like you guys are speaking out of your ass. Like every single one of these tweets about skill-based matchmaking is almost all of them are out of there.
Out
just
the
complete.
ass.
Out the thin air, you know. But here's a question. I feel like Arena was a testing ground for all of this stuff because they really didn't make any improvements to Arena at all. And sure, and in my mind, Arena hasn't improved. If there was a way for them to test things, that would have been the place to test things, right behind the scenes testing. Because you can't just implement skill-based matchmaking like, oh yeah, we're just going to implement it, and all of a sudden everything is changed. Here's my take. Skill-based matchmaking is good as long as it doesn't ruin queue times, as long as it keeps people playing the game. If there's a declining player base that's not supporting skill-based matchmaking, then unfortunately we can't do skill-based matchmaking, and that's tough because you need 100 players in every game. Like, let me remind you, you need 100 players in every game, and you have to try to make it fair for every player. Think about this for a second. Fair for every player in a game with 100 people. You know what that means?
That's
That
intense.
means you are winning 1% of the time. 1% of the games you're in, you are winning. That is fair, right?
Yep.
So that feels terrible. That feels terrible. I would never want to play that. I would never want to play that.
I mean, we all did.
I would love to scrim
We did,
that.
though, when we
I would
first
love
started
to
playing the
scrim
game.
that. True.
I mean, that's what I win now.
And
and I
most
kinda
players
enjoy it.
do. Most players win 1% or less of their games. The average player, right?
Yep.
Like,
It's true.
so there's something to be said of like, I wouldn't enjoy that, but that's why I get good at games I play, right? Like, that's just like my personality, what I enjoy out of gaming and stuff. I've got friends who are like, yo, it's like drink some beers and play squads, right? And you're just like, they don't care. They don't care if they win 0 games, right? They might get upset if we die off spawn 20 times, but not if we die off spawn 15 times and get 1 win, right? Like,
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I think there's way too many variables for any of us to even think about this.
yeah. I mean, it's kind
You
of
know,
a moot
like-
point at this
Well,
point.
It's all good. All these blog posts have been good. The combine has been good.
Yeah,
The skill-based
Combine's
matchmaking is
been
good. Bots
great.
are good. And you know what? The biggest thing that I think people are missing from today's post is there's going to be full on 1 versus 99 bots. And you can queue into that
In the future, yeah.
Oh, really?
Amazing.
It's
That is
incredible.
literally.
And you set the
Zone Wars
difficulty
is
and
in the
stuff?
game? I have no idea.
Because that'd be kind of
yeah,
cool
yeah.
if you can like
Maybe
set the
long term, but I
difficulties and
doubt
stuff like make it
originally.
really hard so you can just kind of practice. Like I know
Yeah.
a lot of games, like Call of Duty has a place where you can go into and just play bots, so you can just warm up and practice and just keep
Yeah.
constantly just shooting. You know, nobody bothers you or anything.
Yeah,
I kind of like that.
I think they said at first like their bots can't 90 right now and that kind of stuff, right? So it's
Yep.
not like going to be incredible just yet. But the other big part to me was they flat out said the Combine is going to be a core Fortnite mode. It's here to stay, which means that we're going to get different variations on that, which could be incredible. That says to me that we might get sort of practice and training tools eventually into the game, right? Because they
Right.
said Combine's going to be a core game mode. Great. Give us more of that. Give us harder. Give us easier. Give us the whole gambit, right? Like for everyone. That's only helpful for the game long term. They named it weird, right? Like if I'm a new player and I pull up and it's just like there's 8 different game modes staring at your face now. More than that, there's like a ton of freaking game modes staring, and one's called the Combine. That's not the one I'm gonna click on first, but it's like a step in the right direction, right? Like it's a step
I
in the right
think
direction.
Storm Wars is awesome in there.
Yeah,
Shout out
Storm Wars.
to-
I don't know
Shout
why
out to Donnie.
it's frustrating the change they made to make it random and stuff. I have a friend whose guess
Very
is that
frustrating.
they'll make it so you can vote like once you're in the lobby, but that's too slow. So I don't know.
It's not gonna happen. They
You know,
don't
there's a
make
lot of
any-
issues with the way they rolled it out, you know, like Donnie's situation and stuff. But it does make me excited.
Shout
for
out
the
to
future.
Donnie, man. I don't care what everybody says.
Shout out to Donnie SC. Free Donnie.
Yes, sir. The father of Storm Wars.
Storm Wars
Yep.
grandpa.
And,
Yeah.
and so much stuff he did for creative.
Everything.
Anyways, good
All right,
directions
guys.
in this blog post. Good directions with skill-based matchmaking.
Good directions that we've been getting the blog posts at all. That's been nice. Although at the same time, we still don't have any information about the next competitive event, and we still don't have any information. You know, like so, it's just it
That's
comes
tomorrow.
and it goes in waves,
That's
right?
Friday's blog posts. There's random blog posts and there's Friday. Friday is
Competitive,
always
yeah.
competitive update.
Okay.
But most of the time it's we still haven't paid out these players. Cool. That's all we have to talk about. Bye. That's
Yep.
most of the time. But anyways,
Yep. Okay. All right, guys. Well, it's time to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Concealed, for agreeing to come
thank
and
you guys
be
for having
on
me
the
here.
show. Yeah, man. Why don't you plug your shit? Like, what are you going to be up to in the coming months, and where can people find you getting up to it?
We have some pretty big updates coming out soon for Raised by Kings, and you can follow us at Raised by Kings GG on every social media platform, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. It's all Raised by Kings GG, and then our website is rbk.gg. So
Easy.
you can find me at rbk_concealed. If you have any questions or you guys want to know anything about Fortnite or myself or RBK, I'm always open to talk to anybody and discuss anything you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, if you just send him your sub top 200 placements in cash cups and Wednesday cash cups, he'll sign you immediately probably. So make
Yeah.
sure you spam that DM box. All right, Concealed.
No, I think
Thanks.
thank you guys.
No, you can finish your thought. Finish your thought. No, leave. I changed my mind again.
No, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna leave it at that because I'm gonna get a bunch of crazy
see what
DMs.
happens.
Yeah. Perfect. All right.
fellas.
Thanks
Y'all
so
have a
much,
great night,
Concealed.
guys.
You
It's
have a
pleasure.
You have a great evening.
Thanks, fellas. Y'all have a good night.
All right, Balla. We're back hitting the Hotline FN grind again. This is exciting. I'm glad to be here. I'm always here. I mean, this is my home, but
I'm not always here actually.
Yeah, you're like not there that much these days, it feels like.
Nope.
So-
It's a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah,
But, you know.
yeah. You said you're oh, I lost you from the Zoom.
Oh
So-
gosh. I
so
think
that's
it's
a
because
rip.
he dropped.
But I sat aside. I still got you here. Why don't you plug your stuff, Balla? You said you're getting back on the grind here again. What does that mean? What shows are coming back? What's happening?
I don't. We're gonna do all the normal stuff, VOD reviews and stuff. I want to change VOD reviews up. I'm so bored with VOD reviews.
Interesting.
So we're thinking about it. I do want to continue to bring back, expanding one by one the viewer VOD review show. And hey, Paul, I have a question. All the normal stuff, it's all gonna be there, but I want to try to play more games. I want to try to play more stuff. I want to do more Fortnite because I don't play enough, and I feel like I have a lot of time to play it, even though I do a lot of things. And people don't get to see that side of me. So that's what I'm gonna try to do.
Are you saying that you're quitting World of Warcraft cold turkey?
No, absolutely not. What? I have the game open right now, Tim.
Oh no! He's been grinding while we've been doing the show, guys. Oh, rest in peace.
My goodness.
Oh man, dude. Oh no. You got the empty Mountain Dew bottles. You're going full on South Park over there, aren't you?
My desk is looking a little dirty right now, but no, not full on South Park.
It's okay. It's okay. I have sake stains still from my birthday stream, so.
Ooh,
Everything's
nice.
sticky over here, so that's fun. Nice. All right, Balla, thanks again so much for co-hosting another phenomenal episode of Hotline FN. Matt, appreciate you.
You too, man. Thank you.
Peace. All right, guys, that's been episode 14. I've said episode 14 twice now, once at the beginning, once now, and this might be episode 15. I might have to just dub in. So watch on YouTube. Watch for the awkward dub where I just jump cut in my voice to cover up that snafu. But other than that, I've gotten a lot of follows, a couple of subscriptions. I'm sorry that I don't really read those out, for Hotline FN, but really appreciate it. That is the biggest way and the easiest way you can support content you like, right? If there's someone doing something that you think is cool and you want them to keep doing it, the very least you can do is throw them a follow on their social media. Whether that's on Twitch for free, on YouTube, you can subscribe for free, Instagram, subscribe to the feeds on podcasts, that kind of stuff, right? That's all big. That's big. Do that. Do that for Balla. Do that for RBK, Raised by Kings. And do that for Hotline FN. That's how we keep the show going. And I promise you, the constant tweets and the Discord DMs of when is the show coming back? When is the show coming back? That is a really big reason that the show came back. So we're out there. We're watching, we're listening, we're receiving your feedback, and we want more of it. So I'll always be bringing it. Make sure you tune in live to bring in your topics and suggestions. That's how the show thrives. And make sure you add us and add other people you want to be on the show. Call them out, yell at them. Why aren't you on the show? It's probably their fault. It's probably not mine. I'm perfect. So let's do this again. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Hotline FN.